Hey guys, what's up? Alex here. Welcome to a brand new series. Today we're going to be talking through some of Formula One's lost tracks. So this series differs in a way to the abandoned track series because that's about tracks that have generally left Formula One and then gone and deteriorated into pretty much nothing. Lost F1 tracks, and this series is going to be about tracks that have, held a lot of Grand Prix in their past, but then have just been sort of thrown off the calendar and they never really came back since. So that's what this series is about. So of course, if you have any suggestions other than the ones I sort of bring up in this video, please leave in the comment section down below. Anyway, let's get into this video with number one. So first off on this list, we are going to have Brands Hatch. Now this is my local track. It's based in Kent, not too far away from where I am right now. It's a track I've visited so many times in my sort of life. I mean, I started going there in like 2004, I think it was. I've loved it ever since, but this track did hold F1 races back in the past, but unfortunately it was sort of kicked off the calendar and has never came back since. Many of the world's top drivers like Gerhard Berger said that this was the best track in motorsport. It held 12 Grand Prix between 1964 and 1986. However, after the 1986 Grand Prix there, the motorsport governing body said that this was a poorer facility than some of the other options, meaning they decided to go elsewhere. They also mentioned there was little runoff on the track and there was little room to expand if need be. The Grand Prix track lap record is held by Nigel Mansell in his 1986 Williams with a 109.593. It has since held big events like DTM, that's the German Touring Car Championship, the British Touring Car Championship, the World Touring Car Championship, Superbikes, A1GP, Blancpain GT races, and even the NASCAR European Series. Now I actually did a Brands Hatch documentary about a month ago guys, so I'll leave a link to that in the description of this video, so if you haven't seen that already, I personally would say it's one of my better videos I've done over the last couple of months, and I would appreciate if you go and check it out. But yeah, I go much more in detail about the track, obviously the history of it, how it sort of evolved over the years, and all that sort of stuff. So I'll leave that in the description if you haven't checked it out already. But yeah, for me personally, obviously it's a disappointment that Brands Hatch doesn't hold an F1 Grand Prix anymore, but on the other hand, I can understand because it is a much smaller track. Whilst I think it would be an entertaining race to see F1 race around there, as the governing body did state back in the day, I understand why, because the track, there isn't really much room to develop. There's housing built up all around the track, and let's be honest, the track is quite small in a way. If they're on their Formula 1 car, I don't think it would particularly work. I mean, I can understand maybe show runs and all that sort of stuff around Brands Hatch, but in terms of F1 races, I can't really see it working on the current Brands Hatch track, and I don't think they should dig up the track just to make it into a Formula 1 venue. In my opinion, even though I think Silverstone is a bit, I don't know, I don't enjoy watching races at Silverstone as much as I enjoy watching general races at Brands Hatch. I think watching an F1 race at Brands Hatch would be much more boring than watching one at Silverstone, for example. So that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, the Silverstone track is much more developed into a Formula 1 track, and Brands Hatch isn't really developed into a race series sort of as big and whatever as Formula 1. So yeah, I understand why Brands Hatch was taken off the calendar. Of course, it's a shame. It's such a historic track, and like Gerhard Berger said, maybe even one of the best tracks in the world. But there we are then, that's Brands Hatch. Let's move on to the next one. Now a track requested by many of you guys to be in this series here today, and that is Imola. So of course a fantastic track that's held so many Grand Prix over the years. It's a track obviously based in Italy, and it's 40 kilometers east of the city of Bologna. Probably pronounced wrong, apologies. That's why I was looking down, just to make sure I got it somewhat right. Anyway. So this held F1 Grand Prix between 1981 to 2006 as the San Marino Grand Prix, and also held the Italian Grand Prix in the 1980 season. Sadly, it's remembered due to the tragic losses of Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna in the 1994 season. These crashes would go on to improve the safety of Formula 1, but unfortunately for the track of Imola, it really did dent its appeal. Since 2007, Monza has been the only place where an Italian Grand Prix has been held. There have been talks to try and get Imola back on the calendar. In fact, a couple of years ago, there was really strong talk of the track actually holding a Grand Prix once again, but unfortunately nothing went through. This circuit still holds an FIA Grade 1 licence, the top licence you can have for a circuit, and it is a shame, This track, of course, had a lot of tragic moments in its history, of course, with the tragic death of Roland Ratzenberger, I should say, and Ayrton Senna. Unfortunately, that sort of did dent the history of the track, but I think a lot of you guys, and myself included, really enjoyed watching races around this track. I mean, it still does hold big events here today, but nothing of the caliber of Formula 1. Of course, it's a shame to see tracks like this, which, you know, are sort of esteemed in F1 history, completely wiped off the calendar. And obviously, understandably, it does have a bit of a dent in its history through those sort of accidents, but it is a big shame. It is a big shame. Of course, there have been talks over the last couple of years to try and get it back on the F1 calendar, as I did mention over the sort of the voiceover. There was quite a strong link to this actually replacing the Italian GP at Monza, or even coming in as the European Grand Prix, but unfortunately, once again, they all sort of fell through. So let me know in the comment section down below, guys. Would you prefer to have the San Marino GP back, or would you prefer to have Imola replace Monza as the Italian Grand Prix, or maybe them alternate from year to year? That'd be a really interesting comment to leave down below in that comment section. So next up, requested by a lot of people once again, is the Portuguese track of Estoril. Now, this held the Portuguese Grand Prix from 1984 to 1996. This track has a massive capacity of 45,000 and still holds an FIA Grade 1 licence like Imola we previously mentioned. This track was a fan favourite as it had many iconic moments even in the 12-year history of the track. Niki Lauda winning his third title, Ayrton Senna's first win in 1985, and Jack Villeneuve overtaking Michael Schumacher on the last turn on the 1996 Grand Prix. Even though this track has not held an F1 event since the 1996 season, it has held big events like MotoGP, A1GP, World Touring Cars, and even Le Mans Series events back in the day. Unfortunately, over the years, this track has had numerous safety inspections being failed, and this track also has huge crosswinds playing havoc with some of the top racing cars in the world. Now, have you ever raced this track yourself in a sort of a modern day game like Project Cars, for example? I know is one that has Estoril in. It is a tough track to sort of drive nowadays. I mean, even in the sort of maybe a slower car, this track doesn't particularly, I'd say, suit the fastest of the fast. I mean, that's just me personally saying that. I still think it's a great track, but I've sort of driven like LMP1 cars around there, and I've really struggled because of just the way the track is. I think this track is definitely, without being too rude to people that really love this track, I'd say this track is probably more suited to slower formulas, maybe like World Touring Cars. Maybe DTM at a push could sort of work around here, but I think a little bit like Brands Hatch, it's not particularly suited to modern day high level formulas like Formula 1, Formula 2, World Endurance. I don't think it would particularly work around here. It would be a tough one in terms of overtaking, especially the middle section of this lap would be a tough one in terms of any sort of overtakes. It's basically going to be a procession like the majority of the Brands Hatch would be if they held events like World Endurance or Formula 1. I just don't think it would work through the majority of the track. So I understand why it was taken off the calendar. I think as well with the safety concerns throughout the years, having loads of safety inspections being failed is never a good thing. So even though Estoril is going to be in F1 history forever, it's going to be one of those tracks a lot of people look on, but I can't particularly right now see the F1 calendar go back there. I can't see it being a thing that's going to happen in the distant future. So next up, requested by a lot of people once again, is Magny-Cours. Now this held a French Grand Prix from 1991 to 2008. Now I started watching F1 properly in the 2007 season, but had watched it from like 2001, 2002. I think since I was like 5 or 6 years old, I was always watching Formula 1, but yeah, I always remember the 2007, 2008 races around here, and I always did wonder why they did not go back here, because I kind of really did love this track. So as previously mentioned, this track did hold a lot of Grand Prix, and it was sad to see it go in the 2008 season. Now this is a track in F1 history that a lot of people struggled to overtake in. So in the 2003 season, they made changes to the final corner and final chicane. They were changed in an attempt to try and improve racing, but sadly it did not make too much of a difference. Because of the strange way that the final corners were laid out, it meant that the time to make a pit stop in relation to go around the rest of the track was actually less than normal. This meant that Michael Schumacher won the 2004 race by doing a 4-stop strategy, which is unprecedented in modern day Formula 1. Bernie Ecclestone originally said the 2008 French Grand Prix was going to be held in Paris, but they made the late decision to switch it back to Magny-Cours. The 2008 race was the last F1 event to be held there, but it did appear on the 2009 calendar before it was cancelled midway through the 2009 season. The venue struggled with attendances and poor accommodation throughout. The French Grand Prix does return in 2018 however, but this time at the Paul Ricard circuit. Now Magny-Cours is going to be a track I always really enjoy looking back on, because there are so many great races around there in my opinion. I don't know if that's just through memories, that sort of stuff, because sometimes you remember things better than they actually were. But Weirdly, I always really loved this track, even though maybe it didn't produce the best overtaking. I still remember just being interesting races around there. So for me personally, it's sad that this is not the calendar anymore. I feel like it was a track that would probably work with modern day Formula 1 cars. I think Paul Ricard might be a track where they struggle to get great racing at, or maybe great attendances at, because at the end of the day, it's sort of just like a flat track. It's just a bit featureless in a way. And I think Magny-Cours, even though it was still quite a flat track, it did have those features which people loved. So for me personally, always sad to see Magny-Cours not on the calendar anymore. But fingers crossed and praying to Paul Ricard, there is going to be a good Grand Prix in France. I mean, I've got my fingers crossed because, you know, the French people deserve a good French Grand Prix. Like there is not a Dutch Grand Prix. There wasn't a French Grand Prix for a long time. And I think it's great that that's back because there's 3 great French drivers in Formula 1. I do think we're going to have a Dutch Grand Prix hopefully soon, which sort of leads us quite nicely onto our next one, Zandvoort. Now, Zandvoort did hold a Grand Prix for quite a long time. It actually held a Dutch Grand Prix from 1948 to 1985, 2 of which being the European Grand Prix in 1962 and 1976. This track is not based too far from Amsterdam and actually on the coast, which makes it a really unique venue. Jim Clark had the most wins around this track with 4, and Ferrari had the total most as a constructor with 9. Sadly, however, this track is well known for its fatal accidents. Actually, 13 have occurred in the history of Formula 1 around this track. The track was redeveloped in the early 1970s in an attempt to make it safer. Sadly, in the same year as brought back to the calendar, a horrific crash with the driver Roger Williamson meant another life was lost at Zandvoort. The track is still loved by many and still holds big events like DTM, Formula 3, Formula Renault, and recently held events like MotoGP, A1GP and other huge events that people will know worldwide. Now, like with a couple of these tracks, I don't know whether Zandvoort will particularly work with the fastest of the fast. I think DTM is probably the quickest car that will go around there nowadays. I feel like Formula 1 cars might not particularly work around here because of how the track is laid out. It's quite a thin track. It's quite comparable to Brands Hatchet Away in terms of the width of the track. There's not many places to make an overtake when you're going as quickly as you are in a Formula 1 car. So even though Zandvoort is a fantastic track, I don't think it would work for Formula 1. I think it works fantastic for junior Formula like Formula 3, Formula Renault, but I can't really see it working with Formula 1. Of course, let me know if you think that's, you got a different opinion on that, please let me know. But I don't think modern day Formula 1 cars, with how big they are, how much downforce they create, I don't think great racing would happen at Zandvoort. So actually exciting times for me this year is actually I'm going to Zandvoort later on this year, and I'm really looking forward to going to the track myself. Now I'm actually going to the DTM event this year, obviously at Zandvoort, and I think it's going to be a pretty interesting race. The last couple of years of DTM around Zandvoort has always been pretty fantastic and fascinating, so I think it's going to be a great year and hopefully it's going to be a great event. I've never been to Holland before, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the whole place is. We're staying pretty near Amsterdam as well, so of course people know about Amsterdam. So yeah, I think it should be an exciting time, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below if you are from Holland and maybe going to the DTM event there. I really would be interested to know. Maybe I see a couple of you guys there, might be pretty cool. But yeah, that's it for the first episode of Lost F1 Tracks. Please, of course, leave suggestions down in the comment section down below. If you have any other suggestions, that'd be fantastic. Also, let me know, what do you think about this? I mean, I just made them as like a mock design. I also made a hat as well. I don't know, they're just concepts. I just basically printed them to see what they look like. But would anyone buy merch? I feel like probably not, but I thought I'd just design it for me personally. Even if I don't put it on sale, I thought I'd just design it just for myself. I thought it'd be quite cool. I mean, I do run a production company, and me and a couple of friends sort of help me out with it, AFR Productions. So I do post stuff on my Instagram, my second Instagram account, of our sort of what we're going on with. I mean, recently we went to the TCR UK at Silverstone, and that's the first ever time I've had like trackside access. I'll maybe roll some footage over the top of this, but absolutely incredible, like getting that close to the cars. Pretty interesting stuff. And also my friend John came along with me, and he did some photography as well, so I'll leave a link to his Instagram down below. I think you guys would like it. If you like motorsport photography and all that sort of stuff, I'll leave that link to John. I think you definitely will like his stuff, so yeah. He's been a friend of mine for a long time, so I'd appreciate it if you can check him out. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know if you buy any sort of stuff like this, if we did make a better design. But yeah, pretty simple stuff right now. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. It's been Alex, and I'm out of here. Goodbye.
Na na na